Well, good evening from London. Welcome to Piers Morgan Uncensored. I'm sick of talking about them. Honestly, I am. I think most of us are, but they can't stop yapping about themselves and putting themselves into the news agenda, so we have to. Yes, it's Harry and Meghan who've now regaled us with their truth. So far in sycophantic interviews with Oprah Winfrey, with James Corden, with Stephen Colbert, they've bashed Britain in 6 hours of indulgent whining on Netflix. They've fronted podcasts on their self-centred versions of history. Harry has barely finished the global family trashing tour in support of his treacherous family trashing memoir. But inevitably, he's decided that the world hasn't heard quite enough from him. So Harry's latest wheeze is a live therapy session with Dr. Gabor Mate, a fated trauma expert, in which he reminded us again that he, Harry, is the world's biggest victim.
And then at some point you say, towards the end of the book, when is someone in this family going to break free and live?
Mm-hmm.
Have you done that?
I have now.
Yeah. What does it feel like?
Feels great. I do. I mean, once the book came out, I felt incredibly free. I felt a huge weight off my shoulders.
Oh, shut up. Fans paid £20 each. Can you imagine paying for that? For 90 minutes of that psychobabble in which Harry revealed he began therapy after a row with Meghan and again divulges his fondness for drugs. I started doing it recreationally, he says, and I started to realise how good it was for me. He's talking about psychedelic narcotics. I would say it's one of the more fundamental parts of my life that changed me and helped me deal with the traumas and pains of the past. Well, if there's been an advert for not taking drugs, it's old Harry, isn't it? US border agents take a dim view of drug use by non-US citizens. Nigella Lawson was once banned from flying to America after admitting she'd taken cocaine. Another compelling reason why we don't want them at the King's coronation. We might end up being stuck with them for good. Well, this unfortunately worded caption of the story in The Times said it best. At the end of the talk with Prince Harry, Dr. Gabor Mate said he was suffering from PTSD, ADHD, depression, anxiety, and panic disorder. No reports on what Harry's suffering from after that. So we're all, I think, feeling the same way, which is enough. Surely enough. And yet it won't be, will it? They're just going to keep going and going and going, depicting themselves as the world's greatest victims, whilst pocketing hundreds of millions of dollars to describe their life of victimhood. There's no end to the self-indulgent arrogance from the Sussexes and their grievances. And they've now announced that they've been in email correspondence over their attendance at the King's coronation. But, and I quote exactly, an immediate decision on whether the Duke and Duchess will attend will not be disclosed by us at this time. Think about that response for a moment. The lack of self-awareness is jaw-dropping. They've been invited to the new monarch of Britain's coronation, and they'll go back to them with an answer when they've thought about it. Is it any wonder that their popularity is plummeting on both sides of the Atlantic? Is it any wonder they've become objects of such global ridicule? Comedian Chris Rock's become a latest comic to target Meghan and Harry in his new Netflix special.
Some of that she went through was not racism. It was just some in-law. Sometimes it's just some in-law. Because she's complaining. I'm like, what are you talking about? No, they're so racist. They wanted to know how brown the baby was going to be. That's not racist. Because even black people want to know how brown the baby going to be.
Well, the Sussexes have been on what they call a journey when it comes to their claims of racism in the royal family. First, they sensationally accused the royal family directly of racism. Then they tried to gaslight us into believing they'd never accused the royal family of racism at all. It was all the terrible media who'd done that. Now it's increasingly clear that just about nobody takes any of these claims seriously anymore. Harry ended his therapy session by addressing their ruthless mockery in a recent episode of South Park. The more they criticise me, he said, the more I need to share. Oh, my God. So, same time tomorrow, Harry. If you keep lying, we'll keep having to cover it. Well, joining me now is author and historian Tessa Dunlop, who just flicked something weird across the desk there in her fury at my monologue. Activist and BLM organiser Imarn Ayton, and TalkTV contributor Esther Krakue, and the Sunday Times royal editor Roya Nikkhah. I want to start with, because Roya, you broke the story that the King's office has sent an emailed invitation to the coronation for Harry and Meghan. But their response to me said it all. Just the arrogance of saying, yeah, we've got it and we'll come back to you when we've decided what we want to do.
It was an interesting response. It wasn't quite the response I suppose I was expecting. I was just very keen and asked whether or not they had received an invite. And got it very late on Saturday night that they had, in fact, been invited by the King. And I suppose that's the olive branch that everyone has been waiting for. There has been so much speculation about whether or not they were going to be invited and then come. But of course, now everyone is going to be waiting to see if they both come, if just Harry comes. Of course, it's Archie's 4th birthday on the day, so there is that to take into account. But yeah, we now wait and see when they might RSVP to the King.
I mean, like you say, an olive branch from the King, and a big one, frankly, because, you know, he's just had to put up with all this trashing in the book about him, about his wife Camilla, about his son William, about Kate. All of them got it in this book. So he made the olive branch, which is seen as the decent thing for him to do, although I wouldn't have recommended he do it. If they come, we're going to have the circus the entire time they're over. And it will in some way overshadow the coronation. Not completely, but it will certainly cast a shadow. If they don't come, my view is, well, all right, we'll have a bit of noise about them not coming, but there won't be that shadow. They'll be in California, nowhere near the action when it happens. Isn't it a smart play for everybody that they just stay in Montecito?
The thing is, I think the King wouldn't have issued that invite unless he actually really, really wanted his son there. He wants his son there. I think the other thing we saw with the Platinum Jubilee service last year for Her Majesty the Queen, the late Queen, of course, is that they did come over and they were actually able, after all the hullabaloo of earlier last year, after Oprah and all of that, they were able to actually come to parts of it and stay out of the limelight. I think the other thing to remember here is a coronation is a once-in-a-generation massive deal. There will be golden carriages, there will be 2,000 people in the Abbey. It will be an extraordinary sight. Harry and Meghan, yes, okay, there's a bit of a circus around them, but I think all eyes will be on the King and Queen and everything else that's going on that day and the rest of the royal family. So I think it's doable. I don't think that, if they come, I don't think they're going to completely steal the show. They didn't last year for the Platinum Jubilee. It can be done.
Well, I hope you're right, Roya, but another cracking scoop. Congratulations in the Sunday Times. Appreciate you joining me. Thank you very much. OK, let's get into this. Imarn, the Chris Rock thing, first of all, did make me laugh out loud because, of course, I was accused of being a racist for not believing all this racism garbage that she was coming out with. Now Chris Rock has said it. Is he a racist?
OK, well, we have to put everything that he said into context first, OK? So he said that everyone wants to play the victim, and he also referred to white men being the most recent culprits alongside Meghan Markle. He also said that Meghan had won the light skin lottery, so in other words, she has light skin privilege, and so therefore he couldn't quite understand why she was still complaining. He also said that she was acting dumb in regards to the royal family, and that's when he proceeded to say that they were the original racists, they invented colonialism, and they were the OGs of racism. So in other words, racism should be expected. So he basically spent the best part of his set making it dead clear that the royal family were a bunch of racists, and that Meghan Markle's ignorance and naivety
was alluding...
basically utterly ludicrous.
Okay.
So that was his set,
He was alluding
really
to colonialism, and you can certainly frame an argument that there was obviously racism and colonialism. I can accept that. Well, we're talking about the current members of the royal family being directly accused of racism. Esther, what really annoyed me about Harry retracting that was that 2 years of damaging allegations left to hang around the world that the royals have been racist, and then he turns around and said, well, we never meant to be racist.
Well, then I always made the point that he didn't know what he was talking about, because he started trying to wade into a conversation that was way out of his depth, saying he was unconscious bias. And I often made the point that, hold on, you've let these allegations stew for 2 years, saying that there was concern about the darkness of your child. Even people that are not particularly fond of anything to do with sort of racial politics would say that is racist, right? But then you to turn around and say, actually, the media said that it was racist, and that we are suddenly so blind, and all we do is follow the media that we can't actually discern this for ourselves. That's when everyone on both sides of the debate said, you don't know what you're talking about.
You know what, Tessa?
You're just using your wife.
Yeah, look, I mean, we've talked about this a lot.
I feel like Prince Harry here, like the white plonker. Do you know what you're about to throw at me?
say that. That's what we love.
Bear in mind that when I left Good Morning Britain, I think I've talked about this before, but when I left Good Morning Britain, it's because specifically I didn't believe Meghan Markle's claims that she'd gone to someone at the palace and said she was suicidal, and they said she couldn't get any treatment or therapy or help. And also I didn't believe the racism claims. Now, what's interesting is neither of those... But hang on, Tessa, here's my point. Neither of those claims get repeated in Harry's 420-page book. Yeah. It's like they never happened. And yet they were the incredibly incendiary and explosive allegations which triggered this whole thing.
Now,
what happened to them? Where did they go?
It's a question of nuance. I am very clearly a white woman, but I am married to a foreigner at the bottom of the European pecking order, a Romanian. And I remember, and my wider family deny this, I remember my aunt, her little pink fist, banging on the table, our country is too full, we don't want him over here. I remember the way they spoke to him, so just some members, not all members of my family, with a louder voice, like he was a tradesperson coming in the back door in the 1950s. This stuff, it filters in. It's very hard to prove. It's hard to articulate. And we're talking about white on white in the context of my family. So what I'm trying to explain
you're describing is xenophobia, though.
Right. Okay. I know. I've explained that. But I'm talking about these things that are very hard to articulate. They're hard to prove, and they're actually. What happens is they get labelled, they get pigeonholed, they get pushed into two camps.
Hang on. I'm sorry, hang on.
Actually, I believe Harry when he said he felt something. I've hung around public schoolboys.
Yeah.
I've been in a group.
Yeah, that's fine.
Who have referred to the Serena and Venus Williams as silverbacks.
Fine,
I've heard that with my own ears in the last 10 years.
We're not talking about any of those things. Listen, here's my point.
But we are actually, aren't we?
Well, no, that's what I'm talking about. They went on global television to Oprah Winfrey, the most famous people in the world, and they made direct allegations of racism that they now have said they simply didn't make. We didn't mean to say anyone was racist. They've never named anybody who they originally said these things. Nothing. It doesn't appear in the book. It's just vanished after 2 years of incredible damage to the brand of the monarchy.
And can I just say the agenda's changed? I just want to just throw that point in. I've said this several times. Their agenda has changed, Piers, and so therefore their tactics have too. And so that is why it's no longer in the book, because their premise right now is about getting their family back.
Should they have the gall to turn up at the coronation? Bear in mind these two have done so much to damage the institution of the monarchy in the last 3 years. Why would they even want to be there celebrating the coronation of our next king?
Well, firstly, I think it is more than possible to highlight racism within an institution whilst simultaneously wanting to reconnect with your family. That's the first point. Secondly...
But is that what they did? Did they highlight racism? Or did he...
Well, wait, hold on a second.
Established that he didn't know what he was talking about.
That was the original plan, to highlight racism. We already know that they have backpedalled with that.
Yeah, so there was no racism.
We already know that. And in terms of the coronation, well... It's Archie's birthday, as we already know. So for me personally, I don't believe
4-year-old kid's birthday party versus the coronation of a king.
I don't believe that's a coincidence. I don't believe that that's a coincidence.
Oh, do me a favour.
I do not. Call me sceptical, but I don't.
You think they planned the coronation to ruin Archie's birthday?
I'm not.
Oh, for goodness sake!
Just on record, Piers is shouting. Just on record, here, man shouting.
Sorry, this is the stuff of total insanity. Of course, they didn't plan the coronation of a British monarch to ruin a 4-year-old kid's birthday party in California.
I said I don't believe that's a coincidence.
I think it could have been a way out.
You think it's deliberate?
No, I think
all right, time out. No one can hear everyone. Only I'm allowed to shout on this show. Esther, apparently they've done this deliberately, the coronation, to ruin Archie's birthday.
I do see that argument. There could be merit there, because if they say they're not coming because of Archie's birthday...
Don't tell me you've gone nuts as well.
No. Family politics, okay?
We need to own it.
Tessa.
What we've got is... to me, they're like teenagers, and teenagers often make really good points. They're at the front of pushing the envelope forward. They've made their case, sometimes inarticulate, sometimes clumsy, sometimes egregiously. OK, now they're in their bedroom, right, and we need them to come out the bedroom.
No, we don't.
Yes,
no, we don't.
They need to climb down, because Mummy and Daddy at the table want them.
Absolutely
not. Yes, so if you do the metaphor...
And by the way, here's the other point. It's
It's
not just about what the king wants, because it's his son. It's about what the king should do as the right thing for the country.
That's what I wanted to add.
The king represents all of us, right? I don't think the most people in Britain want Harry and Meghan anywhere near
not
this
just about
coronation.
Britain. He's head of the Commonwealth.
Can I just say, I don't think that this is, in terms of the coronation, I don't think that this is simply just about whether King Charles wants them there or whether Harry and Meghan want to be there. I actually think that this is due to reputation management, and I think it comes down to what is best for the institution. And I believe what is best is
all right, do you think they should be there?
Redemption.
Yes or no?
I think that King Charles should prioritise rectifying the issues within his family, so I think they should go.
Should they be there?
I don't think they should go. I think this is something for the British public. I'm quite frankly, I'm sick of the saga. I'm sick of the drama. I'm sorry for the issues that they're having, but this should be happening behind closed doors.
And Tessa, if they do come, here's what they're going to do. They're going to bring a camera crew, they're going to bring recorders, and they're going to invade the privacy of the royal family all over again.
And here's what's going to be the winners. The royal family will win if they come, they will win if they come, and you, The press, the populist press will win, Piers. So let's all gun to get them on those pews.
Actually, I'm no longer the popular press. I'm a
What are
television presenter
Oh, I
of a
see.
show
Oh,
called Piers
really?
Morgan Uncensored.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. Well, look, I'm glad we all reached an agreement that I'm right.
Delusions on grandeur, all right?
One thing for sure, if they do come, it will be, of course, a story, and we will, of course, be compelled to cover it.